This video is all about the built-in history object to React Router. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to use React Router's built-in history object to programmatically navigate between routes. So what is the history prop? Where does this thing come from that we've seen in our props that React Router gives us? Well, the history object is no stranger to JavaScript. It's built into the browser's window. In fact, the history object from the browser is actually based on the actual window API. So you can go and you can access it. You can just type in your console window.history and you can see what this object gives us. So out of the box, it seems like maybe it's not that useful, but there's some really cool things that you can do with this history object. For example, what's cool about this history object is that it allows you to basically what its purpose is to store information about the browser's session. Okay, so React Router will actually use this to keep track of where you're at in your navigation stack. Meaning if you click on a link and move from one location, one route to another route, you can then save that change, that transition in state in memory. Then you can access that transition in state. You can access that change in a programmatic fashion. Now the built-in history object to the window and React Router's object are actually a little bit different. Okay, so we need to take a look at what the history object from React Router's history props gives us. This is how the React Router API works. Notice there's a couple of cool things here. We have like action, block, create href, go back, go forward, length, listen. A lot of really important methods and other things like location and push that we can use to navigate between some things. But the thing we really want you to pay attention to is location and push. So location will give you sort of that history. That's where you store where you've been, where you're going, how you got there, etc. Push is a function. Push will allow you to take in a string argument that is set equal to a specific path in your routes and route to that path programmatically. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take this little greet function, for example. Greet will simply just push the user to the greet by Luke. So it'll push the user to that actual location. It'll change the URL from whatever it's at currently and to greet/Luke. So the things to remember about this push method are that it takes a string argument matching some location in your route history. Okay? So now we're going to dive in. We're going to look at our example that we have put together in training kit for you. Follow along exercise. This one's pretty straightforward, so it should not take us very much time. Okay, we have navigated over here to our project. We're here at the home component, and we're about to dive into learning about how we can kind of approach this idea here. Okay, so what if I was on the Avenger page and I wanted to sort of, well, let's see, Avengers, let's build something that's a little bit useful here. No, that's going to be a list here. Okay, so what we want to do is in the Avenger list component, since we're rendering all of our Avengers, and we're using the link component to route to the Avenger route. So let's change that to use the history object instead. So it's going to be pretty straightforward what we can do with this. So on each Avenger, instead of linking to the Avenger by ID, let's just use the built-in history object. So let's build a function that does this for us. And that function we can just sort of, we can just build kind of right here in line if we would like. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to just use plain vanilla JavaScript to achieve our purpose. So I'm going to say function route to Avenger. We're going to pass that our props. We're going to also pass it the Avenger that we want to route to. And in this case, we're just going to call props.history.push, send our route, our user to Avengers by, and we need a / there, by Avenger.id. So it's going to effectively achieve this same exact thing here. Okay? So let's go and replace all of this code. Now we'll do a div instead of a button. And we're just going to say Avenger.name But instead of using the link, and we have that to format and everything, we're going to on click, take the user to, and we need an anonymous function here. We're going to take the user to the specific route that we requested. In this case, we're going to say route to Avenger and pass it those props and that Avenger component, that Avenger object. Since we're not using link anymore, go ahead and get rid of link. And since this is a utility function, I'm just going to put it down here at the bottom of our file and clean things up just a little bit. Whoops. Okay. Now, if I've done everything right, I should be able to go to my Avengers page, click on Thor, and have it navigate me over there. Notice that we still get that same awesome URL. We still have our Avenger details and the movies lists. The only difference is how we got there. Now, this isn't like a fully fledged example as to why you would want to use this. Normally, you want to use props.history.push based on some sort of condition. So let's say you just got a server-side call back and the data said that it was doing one thing over another, or you had a successful save to a database. Then you would use this function, the history.push function, to navigate after that save, or to navigate the user back to some sort of error page or something, or like a 404 page. So it's really, really handy in those situations when you don't need the link component. What we're doing is we're just showing you that you could literally program this on your own. This is something that you could potentially just start using. If you don't want necessarily an anchor tag, you may want a div or something to route you between components. But that is how the history object works. That's why we use the push object. There's plenty of other methods on there that you can play around with and discover on your own. Thanks for tuning in.